All right, crank it up, turn it down. Sean does now realize that he has about 10 to 15 seconds to just get a pop out at me.
Yeah.
In between each segment, which is a dangerous thing. So if I come back and I'm just on the floor, or someone has a bruise, someone has a black eye, you know that he definitely got through to me. No, but let's weigh in on some of these controversial drum habits. Get everyone's opinion. I literally have on my paper get Sean's opinion, because when we started, it was just me and you.
Right.
And I didn't even weigh in. I just asked the questions.
Sure. Now we all get involved.
Now we all get involved. All right, guys. So if you dig it, you crank it up. You crank it up. This is better than a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Crank up the dial. Crank it up
to 11.
to 11 if you really dig it. Or if you don't, turn it down. And that's
Or-
okay.
Or in some cases, I crank it down if I'm really against it.
If he's really mad, you crank
But
it
I'm
down. If you
never
really
mad
dig
about
it, crank it
anything.
up to 11.
I'm not mad.
But crank it up, turn it down. Here's the first one, guys. Burying the beater.
Ooh.
You're playing your kick drum. Burying that beater.
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm going to say that it's a bad habit of mine to bury the beater. I tend to play heel up a lot, so I do bury the beater. But I'm going to have to turn it down, because when you bury the beater, you don't get the resonation of the drum, and you want to let off that beater a little bit. You want to let off that pedal a little bit, and you want to strike the drum and then let that beater come off so it resonates. So I'm going to turn it down. I do have that bad habit of tending to bury the beater, especially if I'm playing some punk music. So that's just a bad habit of mine.
So you're saying that the little
Yeah.
bit of sound that's kind of choked off.
Yeah,
when
it's
you
choked
do that,
off.
You don't
yeah,
like that.
sure. No, I don't like that. No, it's not good.
Okay,
Turn
John.
it down.
But it can serve a purpose
Sure.
if you're really going for a specific sound out of the drum, because with that technique, you can you're muffling the drum. More of a staccato effect could be taking place, but it's important to do them all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I look at it that way, because they serve a purpose in creating a sound.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just something to experiment with, and it all comes from proper technique in building the ankle stroke. From there we build on more leg, more get up and go, more power coming from the leg and the muscles when we're really hitting hard. But in the beginning, when you're practicing early on, you want that ankle stroke, you want that control factor. And then when you got to step on it a little bit more, you still have that for control. But then you can bury the beater, you can be off the beater, you can play very loud, whatever the purpose is for the music.
Right.
That's pretty much it at that point.
Yeah, I was coming at it as a bad technique type of approach. Burying the beater is bad if that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
But totally what John is saying is, because you do that on a regular drum, you can bury the
bury
stick
your
as
stick
well.
in there,
Yeah,
of course, yeah.
To get that sound effect. So in
That's
that sense,
it.
yeah, totally. To be able to do all those different things, yeah, totally crank it up. But if you're just burying the beater, nah, it's not good.
Yeah, I like you're saying, starting out and everything. That's all that I knew or thought, or you know what I mean. I would bury absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And gradually, I just learned to control the pedal a little bit
Exactly.
more, and then now more often than not, I'm just floating. I'm just floating on my pedal. You know what I mean? My foot is not down. Do you play, John? Do you play heel up or heel down primarily? I know a lot of jazzers are heel down and
Yeah,
pedal
that's
controlled.
it. Fundamentally, what you're talking about there is the dynamics that are required for the music. Because if you're dropping your leg, the whole leg on the pedal and all that, it's going to be hard to play with a lighter dynamic for the music. So it's good to have that ankle thing going on. So I play them. I play them all. I did a lot of heel up for a long time, especially in those formative years, going way back. And I was touring and I was playing, and some of the rooms, especially back in that day, you didn't have the technology you have today. Okay, so you had to really get your sound out into the room. So sometimes you had to play really hard to get in the mix.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about playing anything really hard rock, something really dynamic like that, the volume levels,
Yeah.
but more, a lot of different dynamics in more of a show context. But a lot of those rooms, there was no sound reinforcement. The drums weren't mic'd. None of that was happening, And that was the requirement for the music then and for those venues. But sometimes you had to play really hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, crank it
you
up in
gotta-
the right room in the right scenario.
Yeah.
Yep,
You
that
gotta,
was
sometimes you got to push it out, and that really affects how I'm feeling when I'm playing. Specifically, how I'm interacting with the hi hat stand and with my bass drum pedal really impacts my energy level. It's just like putting the ride out a little bit further, and you get that like. Suckerman talks about that.
Sure.
About having his ride, the bell, a little bit out of reach, so you just kind of have that little forward motion, and then in your mind, you're like, next gear,
Pushing
you're
it.
like third gear,
Yeah.
fourth gear, like
Yeah.
that's when you're really driving.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that the physicality of what we're doing impacts our mental state, which impacts the playing, and it's all connected.
Yep,
Cool.
absolutely.
Very cool. All right, I got a couple more, so let's get through these. Crank it up, turn it down. Sharing drums. Just as a topic. I know
Yeah.
we've all done it. I know we've all had to do it. But as a topic, would you crank that up overall, or would you turn it down?
I am cranking it up because I tend to be a little lazy when it comes to that type of stuff, and I don't like lugging too much stuff out. So if I'm on a bill where it all depends. If a house drum set is different than sharing a drum set in a lot of cases.
Right.
You go to the club, and I've played on house kits, and they're just beat to hell, and they're not given any regard by the owners of the club, and the heads are shot, and it's missing pieces. That tends to suck. But I don't really consider that sharing drums. But if you were playing a show and there's 4 bands playing, and you're one
Yeah.
of them, and you're only playing like maybe a half-hour set, I think everyone should at least share a drum set. I think it's better than 4 guys loading in their drums, taking up the time to do that, especially if we're all playing the same style of music
Yeah.
and we're all playing 4 or 5 piece kits. It's nice to be able to share a drum set. You can move things forward or quickly. So
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
going to crank it up. I like sharing.
John,
Yeah, me too.
you dig it?
Yeah, well, again, here we go. Back in the day,
We need a tally.
The land before time.
We'll keep a tally on the side of the screen. But back in the day.
well, it was a lot like what I was thinking of with this question is how often this would happen depending on the venues, but it happened a lot in Vegas. Okay, playing a lounge, and you got bands that are playing in that lounge 24 hours a day. And so the bands come in, and then you get to know one another, and then you got the guy with the really nice drum set, something, hey, we use yours. And one thing that was really cool about that was the mutual respect. So it wasn't really a question. If somebody was going to share their drums, they knew that their drums weren't going to be abused or anything like that. Everybody was on the same page and very respectful of whoever's drums we're using. But I got to play. I think I mentioned this to you, Adam, one time about I got an opportunity to play a lot of different make drums in that way.
There's your research. Of
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
like,
it
just
was-
a slew. What
Yeah.
do you want? Well, you see, I've played this, and this. Now I have experience with it. Real world
Yeah.
gig experience, which
Yeah.
is way more than tapping it in a store.
Yeah. That was always a lot of fun, and and you make all the friends because back then everybody's hanging out. There was schools, education, but there wasn't a lot of materials available. Very few books, just the classic books, and then we would all talk about that and compare notes, and at breakfast after the gig, everybody
yeah.
getting together and being able to talk. So, you learned a lot from your peers just
It's a great
hanging out and
point.
talking. It was
Trying out
a wonderful
other
thing.
gear. Even the shells are one thing. Typically you'll bring breakables nowadays. Or you bring your cymbals, bring a pedal, a throne, maybe whatever makes you comfortable. Perhaps a snare drum.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
at least, if nothing else, sharing the shells, it's
so much
3
easier.
to 5 pieces of
But I'm
drum
going
gear
to
you don't have
say
to
that
bring.
I know that John here, the types of gigs that he's playing really now, you're the band all night. Whereas
Yeah.
me, I'm usually playing with 3 other bands, things like that. So usually you don't run into that situation where you have to even talk about sharing drums because you are the entertainment for the night, all night long. Am I right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, I've had experiences both ways. Depending on the gig or the scenario. Obviously, I'm big into gear, so it's nice to play my drums and play them out.
Yeah.
And if anyone ever has the opportunity to hear your drums, like I look forward to that. I don't know, like if
I've offered that up. I've been the guy. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I've been the guy for the purpose of, hey, a drummer you trust too. Just like, hey, don't bring anything. Like literally, I'll have everything there. I just played that festival, the church festival thing with Christy, and I was like, don't bring anything. Like, I literally know what sticks you play, and she literally just showed up.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? She was like, this is the
Easy.
best, and I was
I
like,
know.
yes. But at the same time, I sat out in the audience, and I could hear my cymbals, my pedal, my snare, if I want to, and I took notes mentally. I was like, all right, I need to let off. It's a little too dampened on the snare. I want to let that thing breathe a little
Wasn't
bit.
there a
This and
customer
stuff like that?
just talking about that he just played I can't who was it? He said it was the best gig ever. I just came in with my stick bag and that's it. Who said that?
Someone just did say
Yeah,
that.
and I can't remember who said that. It wasn't Craig. I don't think.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. But we were having that conversation when if
Yeah.
you just show up with a pair of sticks, it's like, man,
Right.
this is some luxury. But at the same time, it's fun to be that guy every now and then. Not every time, but every now and then to have that perspective of your drums. Now, I have a quick follow up on this one. You can go one of 2 directions or both. What's the nicest kit you've sat in on, or the worst kit you've sat in on when you show up for the gig, and that's what you get, and it's really really nice, and you're like, this was an honor to play these drums. They sound great, they look great. Or the worst case scenario. I've got a worst. That's why I threw that in there. But I'm curious to hear.
I think the worst for me was like a sound percussion kit,
yeah.
and then maybe the best was a Masters or a Star Classic, something like that. When you go and there's the Star Classic there you're playing on, that's kind of cool. So those are best and worst for me.
Yeah. So what was your favorite? I know we talked about a couple of kits. You got to try a lot of nice drums in that era. Rogers, Ludwig, some
All of them.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any
pretty
bad
much.
experiences ever? You're like, oh my god, look at this.
So,
What are you doing to me?
yeah. I don't know. Most of my work, I had my equipment. I was fortunate, like if I had to, I was able to use my own drums.
Sure.
So I was happy there because you're comfortable with your own. Everything that is happening there as you put them together and tune them up and how they feel to you and everything, you can't beat that. But that takes some effort, and they're
Yeah.
your drums. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful thing. But getting to that point where playing all these different drums, and by my friends and good drummers, everybody had, and because of the venues, because of the music you were playing, everybody was kind of in the same range, tuning wise. There wasn't anybody that was like too tight or anybody was too loose or anything. Everything was.
Yeah.
was
Did you have
in a
to
good-
adjust the setup
good
at all,
place.
or did you find a happy
Very,
medium?
very little there
Okay.
too. Very little. Drum thrones were fairly consistent. I mean, unless it was somebody and that didn't even matter, by somebody taller, longer
Yeah.
legs or whatever, because they would set back. It was just all those things I experienced during those years of playing that kind of stuff and with a lot of different drums.
I've seen those situations too where guys don't like, okay, you can play the drums but don't adjust. You're not allowed to adjust
Yeah,
anything.
don't mess with it.
And that's a little like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
basic adjustment was
Yeah.
certainly all right, but
Okay.
most of the time, things were certainly in a good place. You might have a cymbal because maybe there might be some extra toms because that's what this gentleman needed for his
Yep.
work. And then the ride cymbals over here, it's up a little bit higher, and we all played the cymbals higher back then anyway. It seems, but that would be no problem just to adjust yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing was out of reach. Nothing was extreme.
And
'Cause
that's experience too.
Well, everybody knew about proper posture for playing the drums because they were all guys that had experience and they had learned like you
Yep.
don't want to do this because you're just breaking your neck. You're doing unnecessary motion, to be able to accomplish something. So just the posture, the ergonomics in setting up the drums and sitting there and knowing what you need to move efficiently on the drums. And all that was really easy. But I don't remember anything that was really ugly. It was all pretty cool all the way around,
Yeah.
and everybody was cool with it. The only thing I would say was maybe a jam session.
Oh yeah, an open mic or a jam session. Then you could
big
run
time.
into some different things. And I just remembered, I played where did I play? Fat Daddy's once, and I had to play the other dude's drums, and he had a floor tom that was in a snare basket. And he was taller than I was, and that thing sat up real high, and it wouldn't go
can't
any
lower
lower.
that.
So if I came over, you're playing punk rock, you're riding on a floor tom, I'm like up here, I'm like, oh great, I look like a
Just
goofball
ignore it at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of thought, well, I guess I'm going to stay away from this floor tom over
Yeah,
here.
it's tough. So I'll touch on it briefly. I played it was a different type festival thing, and hey, drums are provided. Just bring a stick bag basically, and I should have brought more. I should, and in the back of my mind, I was like, all right, I should bring some breakables, bring this and that, just in case, because I don't know what I'm walking into. But again, sometimes laziness wins the day, and that is when you get yourself into trouble. But I showed up and I had to play whatever was there. There was no ride cymbal, period. There was a 17-inch crash as the biggest cymbal, which I made a ride. Lower that down just to have something to hit over there. The bass drum had a whole bunch of foam taped on it, and as I was playing, it was falling off on top of my feet, and the bass drum was sounding worse and worse because muffling was physically getting rocked off of the drum while I was playing. The snare drum, maybe I could play maybe 50% what my normal stroke was, or else the throw off from the vibration flipped off.
Yeah.
And the toms were complete mush because they were so detuned, and there was a broken tension rod on both of them. So it was just like mush, like your stick gets swallowed into the drum.
Mm-hmm.
Just you know what that's like. But so that was pretty bad. Of course, you get the normal bass drum running away from you, hi hat sliding away from you because there was no rug on the cement.
Oh, that's something, that we didn't talk about is, your rug or like forgetting your rug or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, drum rug super important.
Yeah.
I forgot my rug recently. Probably about 6 months ago, I was playing at this thing, and I brought some stuff, but it was kind of like a mismatch of my gear and someone else's gear, so the communication wasn't as great as it should have been. But I actually ended up I posted about it and jokingly said this gig brought to you by Jeep, because I took the back mat out of my Wrangler and put that down, and that was because I needed something for the bass drum. I was basically covered the bass drum and my pedal. It was just that little floor car mat, and I was like, save the day. Luckily, it had rubber on the bottom.
And
so
did the
it's-
car mat say Jeep on it?
Yeah, it did right
Yes,
up
it does,
front.
yeah.
That's
They always
so
do.
funny. Yeah, anything Jeep will have those 4 letters on it.
All right.
Guaranteed. All right, quick round, speed round. Crank it up, turn it down, double floor toms, or multiple floor toms. The number's up to you. Playing with 2 floors.
John, you go first on this one.
Crank that up, turn that down.
Yeah, sure, crank it up.
Yeah, I'm going to crank it up too.
Absolutely.
It doubles as a table.
That's the unfortunate fate of that second floor tom.
Yeah.
Sometimes is you're like, well, I don't need it, but
Right. Yeah, yeah,
start
crank it up. It's cool.
putting stuff over there.
I think,
Yeah,
for me, I've gone so many years now playing a 4-piece set that playing a proper 5 feels weird. And if I were going to go to 5, I would do the double floor tom 5, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's just removing that second tom and having my ride cymbal there is just so comfortable for me. So if I'm going to play a 5, I'm going to do double floor tom. So I'm cranking it up.
Yeah.
There you go.
John, have you actively played with 2?
I have. And that
Did you lay your wallet on
was
there?
brief. Well, I was going to go to that place.
Sorry, I didn't mean to beat you to
Wallet
it.
holder.
No, because I was going to mention, the great Buddy Rich.
Ah, yeah.
And, he could play him, But a lot of times, that second floor tom was for a sweat pal.
Yeah.
Yep.
And whatever. because he did enough with, the 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You know.
He did enough with just the hi hats.
Yeah,
did more
right.
with the hi hats than any
all
of us.
that, all that.
But
But there is that option, of being able to create the sounds, and as things evolved over the years, it almost became a requirement, depending on your music,
Yeah.
depending what you were covering and all the rest of it. Like I think I said earlier about on one gig, I had a whole bunch of extra tom toms that were in there, and the purpose was the music. And it was during that era, and it was during the era when Mr. Hal Blaine was creating the most incredible drum parts for music ever created. And one of the things he did was with that monster kit with the tom toms and
Yeah.
those fills, and just created a whole new vibe.
Absolutely.
So then, on occasion, depending on like who I'd be working with and what the requirements were, and I had that for a couple years, and so I ended up with 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there were 6. No, there were 7. Sorry,
Well, is this
7 tom toms. Why?
was this the Gretsch USA kit that you had?
No,
Because that kit was bigger than a 5 or 6 piece, right? I mean, you had different toms to choose from. How many piece was
What,
it?
my Gretsch?
Yeah,
With that,
the red one.
yeah, the USA. They were. That was just a 5-piece.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It was 2 mounted toms.
Okay.
2 mounted toms.
I thought
one
maybe you
floor
had.
tom.
I thought maybe you had 2 floor
Nope,
toms.
didn't have
to
2 floor tom
Pick
toms
and
with
choose
that.
from different things. Okay.
Nope.
going back to the Buddy Rich thing, he rocked 2 16s too, which
Yeah.
is so interesting to me. It always fascinates me when you see it like aesthetically in the pictures. It looks all real nice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no one does that
No.
anymore. It's like, oh, I got a 14 16 or big boy 16 18.
Well, that was even kind of the style back in the day.
Oh, you're adding that to the marker, the back in the day
back
marker.
in the day. You would have 2 12s, right? It wasn't a 12 and
Yep,
a
or
13.
2 13s,
You'd buy a
or,
drum
yeah.
set, it would be 2 of the same sizes, and it was up to you just to tune them differently to make them sound different. Now, I don't see too many of those kits come through, but I have.
Yeah, and you don't see them being in production now. But
Right.
man, all these drum companies, think about one less machine, one less mold, one less. There's like, just double it up. Just give me 2 of these and 2 of those. I recently just, luckily they were different depths, so my tuning was all right. But I just played a 4-piece kit, and then I brought my 14-inch floor tom. But it was luckily one of those Tama Neomod kits, so it had like a 14x10. I think they're like travel size, 14x10, and then I had a 14-14. So I was able to crank this one up a little bit. Crank it up, turn it down. Crank it up, tune it down a little bit to get a little bit of variance in there. But with 2 14s, I found that even a little difficult to get distinct tonalities out of it.
Sure.
But it was a lot of fun having that other kit, or that other floor tom. And I did that when I had the Black Diamond Pearl Slingerland kit. I just kept that 16 with my Mapex kit.
Yeah.
Just because I kind of liked it.
Or doing double floor tom, but putting the other floor tom to the left.
I always think
like
of
a
you
Larry,
too.
yeah, Larry Mullen.
You
did
were
that.
about to say it, yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Some of those grooves are just like, it's so fun to see. That's what
Yeah.
I picture whenever I see that.
Yep. So that's another way to do it.
Another
So
way to do it.
Definitely cranking up the double floor tom. I think.
Yeah,
it's-
I'm cranking
I
it
think
up
it's
too.
cool,
All right, we'll crank that up. All right, let's move ahead. So we basically cranked everything up. We love everything.
Yeah, we love everything.
Wow, riveting stuff. No controversy
No
here.
controversy.
We're just
No.
friends that agree on drum stuff. All right, we're going to hop into drum industry.